What's going on, guys? It's Erica with Not Your Average EDC, and tonight we are going to talk about the Benchmade Bugout versus the TRM Neutron 2. I've been testing this knife for 2 weeks now. I have to test it for all of July, but I said that halfway through the month, or approximately halfway through, I would change the scales from the milled titanium ones over to the G10 to see if I liked one over the other, and just get a feel for how it is in the lighter scales, because these make the whole knife 2.5 ounces and the titanium ones make it, I think, 2.95, something like that. So not like a big difference in numbers, but to me it was a big difference. So I just want to talk about that a little bit and what I noticed when I was using both of these side by side, because at least to me I think they're pretty comparable. Very similar blade shape. They're both really lightweight, slim, lack of ergonomics, thin, slicey drop point blade. Just like a lot of similarities here, good ones. So let's just talk about it a little bit for the record. I took the titanium scales off. I put these ones on. Installation was crazy easy. If you've never used a TRM Neutron, you literally just take these two body screws off and it pops the whole scale off. Nothing to do with the pivot, no hassle. Like literally it takes 1 minute to do a full scale swap with a Neutron because all you're removing is these. I love that. I think that's genius. I wish more knife companies were doing that. So I put the blue G10 on, and these are way lighter to me. Now I know that the numbers are showing that it's really not a huge difference, but like to me, this feels way lighter now. I'm also really, really enjoying the feel of these G10 scales. They're not like the micarta ones that I had that were all sharp. These are like very smooth, really nice contours. They're absolutely gorgeous. The feel of the G10, oh my goodness. I don't know if this is like cross-cut or something, but it's so nice. It has these really fine lines, but you can feel them, like it provides grip. It's just very comfortable. Now, the titanium scales are insanely comfortable as well. I used them for 2 weeks. They're fantastic. I just feel like these have a softer touch. And one thing that's really important to me with my EDC knives, I know this doesn't apply to a lot of people, but for me, I really enjoy when my scales are not affected by extreme heat or extreme cold. I work at a farm and we have a cooler, like a giant walk-in cooler where we keep the produce, and especially on delivery days like today, I'm in that cooler for 45 minutes straight and I can't leave because I'm unpackaging stuff, breaking down so many boxes in there, putting things on the shelves, and I'm in there for 45 minutes to an hour using my knife the whole time, and the titanium scales were freezing. We keep that cooler at like 34 degrees, so it's fucking cold. You can see your breath in there. And I will say the 2 weeks of using the titanium scales with this knife, it was fucking freezing. Really, really uncomfortable using that knife, especially because when I wasn't using it and I was putting things on the shelves or whatever, I would put it up on a rack and let it sit there, and oh my goodness, it just got so cold. And no, I'm not going to use any type of glove in there. It's just too cumbersome. I have tried gloves. I've tried the really thin, like Kinko ones that are like rubbery almost and super thin specifically for those things. I can just move faster and easier without the gloves, and I don't mind the cold at all. Like I genuinely don't. I'm in there in shorts and a t-shirt most of the time. It's just like touching freezing cold titanium. That's not super comfortable for me. So the G10 didn't absorb any of that temperature change at all. They just stayed neutral, so that was super nice working with today. These scales just feel absolutely incredible, and I'm honestly liking them more than the titanium. Nothing wrong with the titanium, I just like the weight difference. I did take the pocket clip off because TRM is sending me a different one. I could not get that first one to work with me. I just couldn't. I was too afraid to bend it and fuck with it, but I was there was no way it was getting into any of my pants, and I tried like 8 different kinds. So I just had to keep like lifting up the pocket clip like this from the side and pulling it up to get it over my pant pocket every single time. I had to remove and put back my knife, and it was just getting ridiculous, and my fingers like on the tips were getting sore. So they sent out a new pocket clip. It's on the way, and I'm just throwing this loosely in my pocket right now because it literally weighs nothing and it doesn't bother me. Also, not sure if you noticed, but I put the little O-rings on. These are from my first Neutron that I had, and I had a few extra O-rings, so I threw those on because I ran it without anything for the first 2 weeks. So I'm just trying it with these little tiny O-rings now, these little orange ones. Honestly, not noticing a massive difference. I really, at least right now, cannot say that I like the O-rings over not having them. I never had an issue with the lack of O-rings. This really doesn't feel a ton different. Maybe a little more grippy, just because they're like rubber O-rings, so that's actually beneficial. But aside from that, like, I really am not noticing anything different. So this is what we're gonna rock for the rest of the month, I'm pretty sure. I got a pretty good feel for what I thought about the titanium, and I think the G10 will stick for the rest of the time. But I did want to talk about some things that I noticed between these two knives in using them side by side today. And we had 3 huge deliveries, so I used them all day long. Now, let's start with the fact that I did strop them to the same like sharpness level this morning before work. So we have 20 CV and M4. This is a custom M4 blade, right? I stropped them with the same strop to the same level of sharpness, as in like popping hairs, cutting through paper very, very well, just feeling like the same level. The TRM did really, really well, but it did not last as long as the M4. Now, this M4 blade was in a different body when I tested it, when I tested the Benchmade M4, and I think I mentioned in my review that I could have gone the entire month without sharpening this M4. The only reason I did work with it a little bit was just for testing purposes, but that's how long M4 holds its edge for. So I'm not surprised in the slightest that the M4 outperformed the 20 CV. And that's not to say that this is dull or worse or anything. They're both still very, very sharp. I just, in cutting and in use, could tell that this was just dragging a little bit in comparison to the M4, which is literally still like melting through like butter. And it's to be expected. I cut probably, if I were to guess, 200 cardboard boxes today in total, so I tried to even it out and do 100 each. I mean, a lot of cardboard. So that's rough on a knife edge, especially like a thin one. But they're both still in great condition, still sharp. This one's just dragging a little bit more than this one. So for what it's worth, the M4 is still kind of superior in my mind. And just tool steels and M4 in general, they're really darn good. They just keep that toothy edge for eternity. 20 CV though, so far so good, guys, especially the TRM 20 CV. I feel that it performs much better than like the Benchmade 20 CV that I've used. So really excited about this. This is a knife that I want to keep in my collection 100%. Normally, like halfway through my testing or 3/4 of the way through my testing, I can decide by that point. And the dogs are getting crazy. Hold on. Gonna have to kick somebody out probably because they're being fresh. Oh, he's like, wait, but I have a toy. I'm cute. I'll try to wrap this up. Basically, halfway through to 3/4 of the way through my testing, I can kind of decide whether I would want to keep that type of knife in my collection forever or not. And some of them can like come and go, and some of them I'm like, no way, like I want one of these to stay. I want this as a tool to use for the foreseeable future. That's how I feel about the Neutron 2 already. And it's only been 2 weeks. You guys know that I love the Bugout. I have multiple Bugouts. This is one that is a mainstay in my collection as a as a tool that I really enjoy using day to day because it has all the things that I love. And I'm just feeling the same way about the Neutron too, guys. These improvements that they've made, especially when I get a new pocket clip, it's one of those knives that I genuinely feel would benefit my EDC use by having it, and I really can't see my collection without it at this point, which is crazy because all I did was shit on them at first, and now I'm absolutely obsessed. And all it took, guys, was like a properly assembled knife and some scales that were not sharp. Like, that's it. That's all it took to like make me happy. Everything about the design was great from the get-go. It was just I didn't like how it felt in hand, and that's a huge thing for me, is ergonomics. I need it to not have sharp corners and hot spots and stuff because I use my knives all day long. So seriously enjoying this so far. Just wanted to give that quick update. These are very comparable in my opinion, and the Neutron outweighs the Bugout in some senses, but the Bugout, especially in M4, can't beat it yet. It's really good. But go use your shit, guys. I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Love you all.